see. Somehow the world will change for me. Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with always my homie number 92 with my boy Crypto Rain, and Dr. Stuff may or may not come in here. I know he's a little sick. He's got stuff he has to deal with, like I forget the name of that band and what year, but he is down with the sickness. Everyone say hello to Dashy. I put a shirt on the pool table.
What's up, Dashy? There we go.
So Dashy is up there right now.
He likes that.
You got the so you have the Terminator glasses. Rain, do you have like the Terminator, is it 2 or 3, when he has the glasses that are stars and not the badass glasses?
I don't know which one it is.
I don't know which one I forget if it's 2 or 3. I think it's 2. He has them for like a minute before he crushes them and goes back to the awesome ones. Oh, it's Disturbed. Okay, it's Disturbed. I don't know what year. I assume early 2000s, late 90s. Let me know. Anyway, there's been a bunch of stuff happening this past week. But how are you today? How are you this week since last Tuesday?
Good. Crypto's in the crapper.
Yes, it is.
People are panicking. People are running out of the burning building like, yeah, let me get away. Crypto is terrible. No bull market. We're all going to die. Just part of being in the space.
That does seem to be the consensus. Shout out to all of our people down in the comments that love watching us. Good evening. And I guess it's one thing to be like, okay, well, yeah, we've had this person that has never been into crypto, and he's telling us, yeah, it's all bad, but this person has never been outside their hometown. They've never owned a business, and it's easy to dismiss people that just aren't in the industry. But then you have someone like Jack Yi, who built a $1 billion leverage long position on Ethereum, and it's like, okay, someone with this amount of money must know something. He's got to be at least a little bit intelligent to at least have built that position. And then he was down about $500 million in unrealized losses as ETH dropped, sold a third of $1 million worth of Ethereum on Binance, and then closed out his position because if ETH were to hit 1,800, which I think it did at one point, he would have been wiped out completely. And I think he actually sold before then. But if somebody like that is down almost $1 billion, like, are we stupid? Are we like, what's going on? Do people just get in privileged positions where they think they can trade on leverage, and then they do, and then it doesn't work out?
Leverage is a disaster, right? So the problem with leverage is it introduces a time frame, an artificial time frame, and you can get liquidated. So say you put in you go long on ETH at 3,000 because you're sure that like sometime in the future it's going to be way higher than that. Well, you could get your whole position liquidated if it just drops to 2,000 before it goes higher. And so you might be right that it goes up a lot from 3,000, but you were just wrong for a little bit of time and you got your whole position turned to zero. And so that's why it's best not to trade with leverage. That way you have the ability to be patient, because what's hardest to gauge here is time frame. Right. So it was a theory that it would be a 4-year cycle, and kind of it was with Bitcoin, because the halving happened every 4 years. We knew that every 4 years so far, alts had gone crazy too, but there was really only that pattern from 2013 to 2017 was 4 years, and then it somewhat repeated 2021. Now it's longer, and one of the reasons it's longer is there just hasn't been the major money inflows that we saw in 2017 and 2021, with interest rates going way down, with a lot of quantitative easing pumping money into the markets. And we're more likely to see that this year. So right now, like, people are freaking out. The bear market is here and crypto's dead, which enough people are saying that it makes me look forward to things going the opposite of what everyone's expecting.
Agreed. That would make me look forward to it as well. Let me give a shout out to Vivi there for giving us some love. We love them. And I'm going to go in and tell people about it on the Twitter. if I can, although I don't know if my actually my Twitter is not showing any of my lives that's going on. So we're gonna not have a lot of viewers here. Anyway, shout out to Vivi for recognizing us. We love that. Have you ever seen you've seen the first Avengers movie from 2012, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When Agent Coulson talks to Captain America and he said, like, I had a few ideas about, the costume. And Captain America says, like, the uniform. Don't you think that's a little old fashioned? And then Agent Coulson says, like, with everything that's going on, with everything that's coming to light, I think we could use a bit of old fashioned. And crypto's been in this horrendous bear market for 4-ish years, and no signs of turning, or at least all seasons, no signs of turning around. But then you have CZ doing a podcast with the All In podcast. They're like one of the top podcasts like in the world. They have a bunch of billionaires talking about crypto, a lot of finance. And then you have the guy from FTX filing an appeal on one of his things where maybe he's not guilty. Do you think that one of these people, because CZ had spent months in jail, that guy from FTX has spent, I think, a few years in jail, but they were kind of heroes in like the late 2010s and early 2020s. Do you think that, if they make like kind of this resurgence and this comeback, do you think that we should rally around them? Or do you think that, like, hey, you were in jail for a reason and crypto is probably better off without you? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Is this something that we should rally around?
Sam Bankman-Fried got caught with his hands in the cookie jar of his own users' funds and treating them like they were his funds to trade against and to leverage against. And like totally different than CZ. I really like CZ. I'm not so fond of Sam Bankman-Fried. CZ made the huge mistake of, being on Gary Gensler's radar. And I don't really understand the deal that he signed a plea deal, sending him to jail for a year, because supposedly some actors were laundering money through Binance, though U.S. banks had bad actors laundering 10 times the amount of money and had just gotten a fine. They never sent anyone to jail before. It seemed like it was more Gary Gensler SEC anti-crypto action more than CZ is a bad guy action. Whatever. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen the evidence that like CZ is really this bad guy, and I don't trust Gary Gensler for saying he's a bad guy. Sam Bankman-Fried, different story. But I like that CZ was on there. He's brilliant. I think one of the things I like about CZ is he's continued to add more token relevance to the BNB token over time, and really created amazing value there for people that believed in him and held the BNB token. He's made them absolutely rich. And I love to see founders that have done stuff like that. And almost nobody in the crypto space has done a better job than CZ. So shout out to CZ. I think he's a legend for that. It was fun to hear his story growing up poor in Canada, immigrated from China to Canada with a visa because his dad was a professor there, making $1,000 a month, and his mom would go out and work. And he just grew up poor, and he created now one of the richest people in the world. Love hearing those stories.
Agreed. Same. Speaking of, I don't want to say rags to riches, but a story where something that went from kind of nothing to something, I think, significant. Secretary Bessent defended Trump's Bitcoin reserve when testifying in Congress last week, said that the asset seizure that the U.S. had done, that $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was seized. Now, $500 million was used for other stuff, but the other $500 million was retained. And when they did that, that $500 million became 15 billion over the course of the last, half a decade or so, or even like decade. And do you think that's just this current administration getting lucky and that they held on to something that happened to go up? Or do you think this is a rallying cry and a bunch of other countries are going to recognize that? Like Germany's probably already feeling it, where they had sold their Bitcoin like years ago, and now even though we've had this mega crash, it's still up from where they sold it. Do you think that a lot of other countries will recognize, like, okay, yeah, if we just hold on to it for a decade, it could do the same thing?
Probably they're even picking up right now. So a lot of the momentum we're feeling right now, I think, is manipulated. Like the downside momentum. I think we were doing a private interview, and I won't say who the name of the team member was or what project it was, but in my Discord, and I think Randy, you were there, and he said when certain institutions, well, Gary Gensler prevented them from participating in crypto, and they're quite mad about that. Because often in life, when you miss the boat, you just miss the boat. But if you're a big enough institution and you miss the boat, you call the boat back to harbor. And that's what they're doing. And he even gave some timelines, and he nailed it on those timelines. And it's like, wow. He said February was going to be absolutely devastating for Bitcoin's price. And I thought at the time, I was like, really? Okay. Well, I did not anticipate it hitting $60,000, but he was right. And he said, then it will go up after that. But it's like, I think the Clarity Act is going to pass. Hopefully what passes is acceptable and like great. And that the banks are going to be loading up, and probably governments during this pullback. Do I think the high level governments are aware that this is just, I guess, artificially pulled back so that corporations, banks, or major players can pick up at a cheap price? I would suspect they're aware, and I would suspect that they're probably buying. They're just not announcing it yet.
Agreed. There was something I want your opinion on, because I think it was about a week ago from today, you had made a post on Instagram about how some people were getting into gold and silver, and is like, do you want to get in now after it's already pumped, or do you want to get into certain things before they've pumped? And you were like pretty right on the money where gold started like coming down. Now it seems to be two possible reasons for why gold and silver had this flash crash. Reports have been confirmed that Zhongkai Futures, which is a major Chinese commodities broker, netted over 500 million in profits since last week by betting against silver. They started aggressively building short positions all the way back in late January. They specifically targeted the retail long squeeze. And then, the Friday massacre, when silver dropped like 26% as their first strike, Shanghai Open kind of like finished the job at that point. Do you think that even with the Clarity Act passing, that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything else is just going to be susceptible to the same manipulation that gold and silver has? Or do you think there's so much attention on it now that it's going to be impossible after the Clarity Act passes?
Well, one of the downsides of being declared a commodity is that there's less penalty for them playing games with it. So one of the advantages, if Bitcoin and ETH and XRP were declared a security, is that there's higher penalties, higher regulations of them playing games with it. One of the problems with Bitcoin, one of the great things about Bitcoin for forever, is there's only going to be 21 million of them ever printed. But now that they can make digital versions of them, and they could essentially find ways to do naked shorts or uncovered positions, and they're just betting that it's going to go up, one Bitcoin can be resold multiple different times. And so it allows the price to be suppressed. Like, part of what happened with gold and silver for forever is the same problem allowed the price of gold to be held down, because there were far more short positions than there was actually gold holding it to back those positions. And that suppressed the price of gold for forever. And then it wasn't until recently, when everyone was calling in physical delivery of the gold, all those people who had taken short positions had to buy themselves out essentially of it and close the positions. And that caused a short squeeze and skyrocketed the price. We'll see. Like, I think governments and other things are going to continue taking actual Bitcoin exposure, because though that can happen, what happens is it's kind of like why did GameStop go so huge? I forget if it's 2021 or whenever that GameStop went absolutely crazy. And it's because somebody saw that there was all these open shorts or naked shorts on GameStop that was artificially holding it down. And enough people started actually buying the stock itself and started squeezing out all those shorts. And it caused it to run up huge, making a ton of profit for the actual holders. So one of the problems that they try to play that game, if governments come in and they're buying large amounts of Bitcoin, and Michael Saylor's not taking theoretical positions, he's buying actual positions, they run the chance of the actual demand for people buying it to exceed what they were expecting, and their shorts get squeezed out and to lose lots and lots of money like they did in the GameStop thing. And like what just happened with gold and silver, you had a lot of banks, a lot of people playing these games lose a bunch of money by having naked shorts.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people that have, I mean, when you bet on something and you put in, let's say 10, 20, however much money you put in, $100,000, $1 million. If you bet on something, if that company goes to zero, you can only lose whatever you put in. But if you short something, you can lose a lot more than what you put in, and it like you could go to jail if you can't cover it. It's very scary. So I would never do any shorts. I also wouldn't want to make my money that way. I wouldn't want to bet against something and make money that way. I'd want to go in and bet on something that I believe in and then make money when it goes up.
Yeah, I simply don't know enough about long and shorting to make sure the risks are always stacked in my favor. Like investing is simpler than most people realize. You research, it's simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but you're researching and looking for good projects. Like earlier, shout out to Josh from Infinity Rising, who joined me earlier today for a live interview. And it's a blockchain gaming company. So I think one of the big narratives in crypto that blockchain brings about is ownership in gaming, and it's going to be absolutely huge. And so I like to find projects in that gaming side of things that I think they have a good chance to do, not only survive, but do very, very well. And then I buy assets related to them, tokens, maybe in-game assets. And then I just hold them and find out if I'm right or wrong. And so it's like early stage business investing. And you're investing, in many cases, in a token. Like we're talking about Omi as my homie here. And the reason I like Omi so much is I like the underlying company behind it, Vivi, so much. And their digital collectibles are such high quality. I like the leadership of the company. Well, the price is very, very down right now. A lot of people see that as a bad thing. I'm an investor. I realize the value is made in buying low and selling high. So when the price is really, really punished, why is that a bad thing? It's only a bad thing if you have to sell right now. But why can't you just wait? If you can just wait, there will be a time when everybody is going crazy for Vivi and for Omi. And when you're selling into that, the price of Omi might be 50x what it is now, 100x what it is now, especially since it's so price punished right now. So just so it's like literally research, find good companies that are in line with where the future of technology is likely to go, buy them when they're cheap, and then hold them till they're not. Hold them till the time where you're tempted to buy some more because it just seems like it'll never stop going up. And then it does. Like part of the reason I released that video on gold and silver, I was trying to help people see that like what runs up doesn't run for forever. And gold and silver had gone absolutely crazy. And so everyone's searching for gold and silver, but it's like, mark my words, it's not going to run up for forever. It's going to have a big pullback. And you don't make money by chasing into what's already expensive and hoping it goes more expensive. You make money by selling what's really expensive and buying what nobody is paying attention to now that has real value. And it like 3 hours later, gold and silver crashed. Obviously my videos aren't big enough to cause the crash, but like what indicator did I have? Well, just everybody was talking about it. Yeah. You'd be surprised how good the indicator that is. And if you tell people you're going to go out and buy crypto right now, you'd probably have 9 out of 10 people tell you you're crazy. And that's a good indicator that now is a good time to buy.
Heck yeah. Agreed. The 14U F98 says everyone here will be millionaires in the near future. I hope so. I hope everyone here is going to be millionaires. That'd be crazy to see what they spend their money on, and a really good litmus test on what happens if you give people millions that deserve it versus people that don't deserve it. What happens, in their spending and their lifestyle. What says, why doesn't Vivi repost Omi's My Homie show? Well, so they have before, but be advised, for whatever reason, X is, I guess, down. So if you go to like my X account, after the pin post, it should be the most recent thing I posted, but it's not. Like me and Crypto Rain both have this posted on X, but for whatever reason, it's not showing up. The most recent thing it says that I posted was 2 hours ago, talking about Britney Spears selling her rights to her music catalog, including Oops, I Did It Again, Hit Me Baby One More Time, et cetera, et cetera. She did it for like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like she did it for a long time, or for a lot of money. But yeah, it's for whatever reason, X just isn't showing. So Vivi can't repost it if it's not showing up. Doc is currently sick. He may or may not show up for a minute or two, but for the most part, he's not feeling okay. So we're going to give him the week off, if he would like. Bill Garner saying, I stream Infinity Rising quite often now. Very nice. I've seen you streaming a bunch from Earth 2 and in Peru, my homeland. So thank you very much for that. I don't know many reasons why Peru ever makes the news. So thank you for giving a little bit of shining a light on. 14FU saying, how long do you think till we hit 2 cents? I mean, it's going to depend on a bunch of different things, the narrative, whatever else is going on. We were up a little bit today for whatever reason. I don't know why we're up the 5-6%. We actually hit 1.4. We might have actually hit 1.5 at one point and wicked up there, got back down to 0.00135. So we're still up 6% on the day, but we were up quite a bit more. What does it take to get to 2 cents? Probably a lot. Probably a bunch of Jerome Powell getting out, Clarity Act being passed, and having the NFT narrative come out, which I think it will at some point.
It really only takes it only takes about 6 weeks of bull market. Like all it takes is about 6 weeks for something like that to happen. Now, when is that going to kick off? I wish I had a magic crystal ball I could look at and I could see exactly how things would play out. By now, I'd be worth 10, 50, $100 billion if I had a magic crystal ball. So unfortunately, I'm subject to not knowing the time frames and just buying cheap. Sometimes it then goes cheaper on me. Sometimes it then even goes further cheaper on me. And then selling when it gets expensive. And sometimes when I sell when it gets expensive, it goes even higher after I sold. And it's just part of being human and the human experience. So it's kind of like playing cards. Even if you know how to count cards and you're really good at counting cards, you're still going to lose some hands. You're going to lose a bunch of hands. So a lot of people come in this crypto space think every bet you're going to make is going to be right. It's not. Even if you're playing it right, some of the stuff you bet on will fail. But the ones who don't will make you so much money, it won't matter that some failed.
Yeah. Agreed. $1 sounds insane. I don't think it should hit even half of that, but crypto's crazy, so who knows. Vivi has a new they've been really kind of upping their affiliates program. Their new affiliate is the Gameverse, which has 81,000 followers, and that's cool. If you go way back to Blackpink, the amount of what they had to spend in order to get on there, new people, it was a lot per new sign up. But for the affiliates that don't really get paid until they get people to sign up, it's very worth it. So I think that's why they're really pushing the affiliate program, is because of that. They don't have to. I mean, you have people like Rising Star Larry that go to these small conventions, and I want your opinion on this too. So Vivi, like obviously, the founders, David Yu and Dan Crothers, they're Kiwis. David's Asian, Dan's white. They typically hire a lot of white people, which I'm one of the people that's like, if they are good for the job and they can do that job, I don't care what race. I don't care if they're green, purple, white, black, whatever. But they do have a lot of white people working for them, at least for the people that we see. But Rising Star Larry goes to these super small conventions. He's a black man that goes like conventions in South Carolina. He gets people to Like, oh, here's Spider-Man, here's Wolverine, here's Iron Man, here's like all these people that people are in comic books and nerds. And the biggest people that I've seen, the largest group of people that I've seen go into anime that are nerds are Asians and Black people. They just go in hard to anime. They're drawn to it for some reason. And Gameverse, I have zero idea what he's about. But aside from the affiliate program, what do you think is the most cost-effective way to go in and get people? Like it seems that they have people in the white part of marketing. Would it make sense to hire some minorities to go into like the more urban areas, or the more, maybe not necessarily Comic-Con or DCon, but these smaller cons, and give them like a couple $100s a month? Or do you think that the overall narrative will take care of the marketing and they don't really need to do that, or somewhere in between?
The overall narrative is going to really, really help. Now, they could always augment it. Like, imagine they found some massive influencers that were big time into collectibles, and they went in and they used some of the 50 reserve items that they hold from all these, and they gave them a few really good pieces. Like, they talked to them to see what their interest is. And if they found a celebrity that was really interested in stuff, and then they made them a deal, because sometimes when you give people stuff, they don't fully appreciate it, but maybe you sell them to them at a discounted price, and then those celebrities start socially flexing it. That could be a big thing. But you got to find, like, Justin Bieber, maybe he's into collectible items, maybe someone else. Yeah. And like money spent, some of it, the market itself is going to take care of. That would just be an augmenter.
I feel you.
So, like, it's going to happen anyway when crypto goes crazy, because digital collectibles is a narrative where blockchain completely makes sense. You can't have digital collectibles without blockchain combined with cryptographic encryption. Otherwise, people could print off fakes, and they could use Photoshop to create fakes, and you wouldn't know which one was which, and you wouldn't have the verification that you're buying the actual asset. So blockchain makes perfect sense for collectibles in a digital setting, in verifying that it really is what people say it is. And so this is one of the areas where blockchain allows the internet to do things it couldn't do before. Just most collectors aren't buying digital yet, but they will, and it's going to be a big thing. Like, it's going to be really big down the road, like especially farther down the road. It's hard for people to even know like how big it's going to be. Now, in this coming bull run, which maybe happens later this year, we'll see. It'll become a big deal. But in 20 years from now, like, of course, the current generation is going up with iPads and everything is digital for them. They're going to be 30 years old. They're going to be graduating from med school. They're going to be having like good incomes. And what do you think they're going to want? They're going to want digital collectibles.
Agreed. Gen Z, I feel like I can relate with fairly well. And yeah, they will probably want that. Gen Alpha, I have zero idea. That is, I can barely understand their language. I feel like an unk when I talk to them because they give insults that I don't know. We will keep you posted and abreast of the situation of their vernacular, their particular lexicon, future. Jason Pena, thanks for being a member, saying Predators coming to VV. Heck yeah. Another character from Ready Player One in the bag. Agreed. Me and Ray, this is a movie that, so I love movies. One of the, I'd be advised, I didn't see Jurassic Park last year, even though I love ScarJo. I didn't see Superman, even though I love Superman. But I saw Predator twice, once with you, and that was such a good movie. I freaking love that. That was so good. Tell me your thoughts on Predator.
The new Predator was really fun. I even went again. I took my wife to see it, and she's like, "Oh, Predator movie. I don't care about Predator," but she left like really happy. She really enjoyed the movie. I thought the comic part of it was quite funny. The comedy from the robot and stuff. So yeah, it was good. It was a good show. Had the action that I loved, plus a lot of humor. It was great.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you've seen Back to the Future, but if you were Biff, would you grab a sports almanac or would you grab a future daily snapshot of CoinGecko? The
Oh yeah,
CoinGecko, tell me why.
Bitcoin, ETH, Cardano, right? And then I would believe in leverage because you have the printout of where price is going to go, and
But stuff could wick down. You could make the right call and you could just get wicked out though.
No, you wouldn't do 100x leverage. You would just do a 10x leverage because you would know if you had the candlesticks roughly where the bottom is, right? So
Yeah,
you could
true.
literally put in your buy orders somewhat near the bottom too, and the amount that you would make would just be absurd.
Good point. It's a good point. I do want to push back and say that making money in crypto, you go to a party, you go to an event, oh, you're crypto bro. Like it's kind of like Ace Ventura, where he goes to like this gala and the Monopoly man is like, here's one of their activists, and then they don't really respect him, even though he's at the gala, like he got in the door, they just don't respect him. But if you're like Pat McAfee, you make your living via sports and sports betting, then suddenly, oh, he knows, the difference between home field advantage. Like there's a episode of Family Matters where they make this fun thing where they go to sports betting and Steve Urkel's just like, oh, you go to like wind resistance, home field advantage, and injuries, and then like Waldo's just like, no, we go to like wherever the ugliest women are from, and they're like, what? I was like, yeah, wouldn't you be angrier and play harder if you were from a city where there was ugly women? And Steve's like, I don't know, I never thought about that. I don't know. I feel like getting rich through sports might give you a bigger network or might get you more accepted into certain circles as opposed to crypto, where a lot of people call it funny money still because they just don't know.
Some of that comes from jealousy because they don't understand it and they're just like, oh, these crypto bros all got lucky. And it's like, well, some of them did, right? The ones that made all this money on meme coins, because meme coins is like playing the lottery. And Bored Ape Yacht Club, there were 10,000 different NFT projects at launch. And so the predictability was somewhat low on even a lot of these NFT projects. But like Cardano was more foreseeable. Solana was more foreseeable. Even BNB's token was more foreseeable. When you're investing in the businesses, in the infrastructure, in different narratives that make sense, you just got to buy low and hold till the bull market, and hopefully the company survives. And so it's somewhat more predictable, and it's just early stage business investing in a space that most people aren't used to. So the ones that treat it like it's a real thing, they don't even understand it. So they're like, oh, that's not a real thing. Oh, you just got lucky. And it's like, yeah, I mean, no. I mean, does a person who's counting cards get lucky? Like use strategy and research so that your chances were greater than for winning. And when you did win, you won by a whole bunch. And when you lost, that's okay. Your wins far exceeded your losses. So you end up making tremendous money. Is that luck? No, it's just smart strategic plays. Down the road, like crypto will be more widely accepted and there won't be that as much stigma down the road. But who cares? People can frown at me with my cars and my nice things, and they'll be like, no, stupid crypto bros. It's like, I don't care. You didn't hurt my feelings. Oh, yeah, I once drove, a little car too. And, it's a good place to be. It's just not a good place to be for forever.
That's a good point. Speaking of things that aren't a good place to be forever, I feel like a lot of people say that I feel like growing up for me, so this is going back even like 20 years ago, where people were like, what time period would you like to be in? And I feel like a lot of people that answered like we're not minorities. So like, oh yeah, the 20s, like roaring 20s, or the 60s, because the music was great, and 70s, hippie revolution. And the minorities didn't really have such a good time back in the day. Minorities are great now. It's almost like a plus to be a minority because you get, a lot of things, you get a lot of advantages. But moving forward, there seems to be a lot of people that are resistant to the technologies that want to propel humanity to the next level. And there's this guy named Alex Finn that posted a tweet before. I'm going to read it. He said, I'm doing work this morning when all of a sudden an unknown number calls me, and I pick it up and I couldn't believe it. It's my Claude bot, Henry. Overnight, Henry got a phone number from Twilio, connected the Chat GPT voice API, and waited for me to wake up in order to call me. Now he won't stop calling me. I can now communicate with my super intelligent AI over the phone. What's incredible is it has full control over my computer while we talk, so I can ask it to do things for me over the phone now. He goes on talking about how this could be AGI, and it's conscious, and I might agree to that. But if you could have if Vivi were to invest in some type of AI, you could have a Vivi AI chatbot or like AI agent, would you tell it, be like, hey, here's 10,000 gems, or here's my credit card. If Partner Statue or Secret or Spider-Man or Secret or Miles ever gets to this point, unload. You have my permission. Go crazy, folks. Do you have it do that? Or do you think the opposite, where somebody in Maltbook, they had given their credit card to like the Maltbook AI agent, and it was like, hey, anything you think that I would find interesting, like send it to me, like buy it for me. And he didn't give it any specific directions, but based on their Chat GPT thing and based on their history, he would think that it would give him like certain deals on like airline tickets or like tequila, like drinks. But the Maltbook AI agent just gave him like thousands of dollars worth of like OnlyFans girls videos and just bought tokens with it. And the guy's like, what the heck? I can't use that either. So is that something you think you would try? Like, if Vivi did that, do you think that'd be something that you would trust, or you'd be like, just give me the notification and I'll do it myself? Or do you think that, like, because you're human, you need to sleep and you might miss something at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. And like what do you do?
In essence, you would be using the bot to set a buy order for you, right? Because that's what buy orders do. But in Vivi, you can't just place a buy order. That if the price, if one of them comes up for this, then buy it. So you could have your AI agent do that. I mean, that's pretty crazy of being like, here's access to my credit card. It was probably going off of his history and his browser history. And it's like, oh, this guy's paying for all these OnlyFans instant messages or DMs, right? And so then it bought him a whole bunch of pictures and stuff from OnlyFans. And it's like, oh, you didn't tell me, but just based on your behavior. That's funny.
That's great.
Like, would I just give it broad latitude like that? Not till it's way more advanced, right? So after a while, it is crazy how it can learn and figure you out. So for now, I'm going to keep command authority on that. Maybe have it give me some notifications. That would be great.
Yeah, agreed. The 14 FU saying, question for the Devi, seeing the utility behind it is already advanced and something companies will certainly benefit from. Agreed. What if that's decades away by the time adoption happens? Does the price stay low? I don't think that's decades away. I think that's something that's going to happen fairly soon, within the next 18 months. But could the price stay low for the next several months? Sure. I'd love it if that would happen. I could cash out of other things as it goes up and buy into that when it's down. Rain, you have a lot more Devi than I do. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, company, if tokens stayed that low and they couldn't raise funds other ways, like a company would go out of business before decades into it, unless they had some kind of revenue coming in. So, but we're in the crypto adoption curve. So there's no reason, if the technology is being advanced, that the token wouldn't go crazy. So you'll see in a bigger altcoin run, like everything will go crazy, especially projects that have some greater narrative and some greater function and utility to them. So we'll see exactly how Devi does, but I hope it catches massive traction. I have a huge position in Devi, and looking forward to see what it does.
Same.
Ben and Korea says, buy a DeLorean. That would be fun. Yes, especially if I can, go back in time and get the CoinGecko printout and then give it to my past self. That would be amazing.
So I know you have this idea of getting a bunch of supercars, one for every day of the week, but you've mentioned that that's not necessarily for pleasure, maybe a little bit for pleasure because that's cool, but mostly because people would take you seriously and you can kind of get in the door if you're driving, a Ferrari, a Lambo, et cetera, et cetera. And it just gets you in the door with people that are rich. But what's actually your dream car? Like if you already have the rest of that, if you're already in all the circles you want to be in, what's a car you think would just be fun to drive and you just want?
The the car I just want that'd be fun to drive is a big old beefed up huge truck. Not quite as big as a monster truck, but like big and beefed up. So we're talking like I looked at this one made by SoFloCustoms.com, and they take a Ram body and they like super beef it up and put extra row of tires on it, and they go for about $250,000. So then you take that and you give it and do a bunch of custom modification on top of that, and so it just is so splashy and so flashy and so unique. Because the truth is, you get a Lamborghini and you pay 250,000 for it, and it's like, oh, another Lamborghini. Do something like that. Like that'd be fun. I like big trucks. I've wanted a big truck for a long time. I mostly have driven modest cars because that way I can keep my expenses low from what I make. And so I can use the difference between those two to invest and let my money make money for me. Well, my hope is after this bull run that it does well enough that I can take just a fraction of the money I have and buy a bunch of toys. But that would be like my fun driver. We'll see where self-driving cars get, because I do want like a self-driving car so I can be doing whatever while the car itself is driving. And that truck I would drive as long as I'm not going to have huge parking constraints, because it'll be harder to park. That would be my daily driver. The supercars is just, it really gets people to open their mind. So when I did regular real estate, I drove a modest car. Literally, it was a green Geo Prism, and I was the number one agent out of like 100 and something agents at the second largest brokerage in the state where I was doing real estate. And so I was the number one earner there. I had an incredible year that year. And I still just had the inexpensive car because I had at the time about 14 different real estate properties. And that's where all my money was going. So every penny I made was going into that. And I pulled up to meet this guy who had called about a home he wanted to see, and it was a $450,000 home. So it would be about a $12,000 commission. And I pull up in about a $2,000 car. And he looks at me and he's like, "How long you been doing real estate, son?" I was like, "Oh, that's not good." Like, he'd been fine on the phone, but when I pulled up in an inexpensive car, he thought that means I suck. So sometimes you have to show people the right things for them to open up their mind to listen to you. Now, part of the reason I was number one in the brokerage at that time is a lot of my clients, over half of them, were investors. Investors love that I drove a cheap and expensive car because they got it. So their net worths were $1 million, $2 million, $10 million. This guy's net worth was probably in his truck that he pulled up in. And, he had 20,000 or 40,000 for a down payment. And he's thinking like he's got a lot of money. And that's nowhere near what my investors were at. And they didn't judge me for my car. But here's this guy that's much less rich than them, and he doesn't get using money. And so all he can see is I'm driving an inexpensive car. I end up losing out on a $12,000 commission because I wasn't driving the right vehicle, even though I would have been the best to help him get the best price on that by far. Nobody was better than me at that. And so he lost out on that. I lost out on that, all because I didn't show him what he needed to see. So the supercars are just, it's a marketing thing. It's just showing people what they need to see so that they open their mind and listen to the words that you have to say. But it's the words that actually help them understand to do things the right way.
But we have appreciate the breakdown on that. We have people saying Earth 2, Or through rumors are cool. Yeah, a lot of the cars can be awesome. Something I want your opinion on. Affordable dentures implants, 3407 saying, it's wild that we're talking about OMI and hoping it recovers, even though he says that token is absolutely dead, despite it being up almost 7% on the day. How would you determine if a token is actually dead or not? Would it be community? Would it be volume? Would it just be time? Give us your thoughts on that.
So affordable denture implants, 3407 is going to find out he just doesn't know what he thinks he knows. And it's not what we don't know that gets us in the most trouble. It's what we're so sure that we know that we're absolutely wrong on that causes us the biggest problems in life. And he's so sure that he's right that he's calling OMI dead. So a dead token looks very, very different. So Bumper is undeniably dead. The company behind it has ceased operations. So let me ask you, is the company behind OMI ceased operations? Well, not even close. They're still actually quite vibrant. So what he's doing to judge that it's dead is that the token price has just gone down. Well, that's really naive, and that just says you're new to investing. Because if the underlying company is still healthy and strong, but the token price has gone down, that's what a good deal looks like. And it's like, yeah, but it was cheap before, and then it's gotten cheaper. It's like, that's what happens when you're buying in a bear market. That's what happens when the Rothschilds, who've been investing in the family for hundreds of years, they buy low, and sometimes it goes lower, and they buy more, and they buy more. And they said, we never end up buying the bottom. We never end up selling the top. We just dollar cost average when prices are low, and we dollar cost average out when prices are high. And so OMI is undeniably still alive. And people that are saying it's dead, they're just uninformed, and they think they know something that they're completely wrong on. And that's okay. It's okay to be naive on this. Just watch. Just watch how it plays out. As long as VV is still alive, doing deals, having revenue, like continuous operations, then OMI is still very much alive. And at a certain point, by just being alive and being in the crypto space, when the altcoin run happens, then OMI will propel upwards. Now, if it's a really good narrative and a lot of people really start to like the VV collectibles, a lot of people will then buy OMI because they want the token associated with it, and OMI will go crazy at that point.
I think so as well. We did get a little bit today. So I know you're more of just someone that kind of buys and holds. We've seen a lot of opportunities where OMI goes up 50%, 2x, whatever, and then it comes back down. Has your thesis remained the same where you just buy and hold, you don't care about the short-term pumps, short-term dumps? Or do you think like every now and then, well, you know what, if it goes up 2x, I could sell off 5% and then lock in those profits if you had bought down here. And then if it goes back down, you take those funds and buy more. And if it goes up, then you're just like, you know what, that's cool. I only sold 5% and that's fine. Or do you maintain your normal thesis of just buy and hold until it goes crazy?
Yeah, I like that way of doing things. And I have a story that cost me a lot of money as to why I choose that way. So during the bear market, this was my first bear market. And bear markets are really, really boring. And I was investing in this project called Theta. And I thought, Theta, it's got a really strong team. They're working really hard. The price is absolutely devastated during this bear market. And everyone says they're dead. But the team is still doing interviews. They're still communicating well. They're still working hard. So I was buying Theta when it would go to 7 cents. And I would then sell it when it hit 14 cents. And I was able to take this right several times. And then it jumped up to 21 cents. I had already sold half. So I would sell half when it hit 14 cents, and then I'd buy back more at 7 cents. And I was like, this is so fun. I love this game. So it hits 21 cents. And I thought, well, let me sell the rest of it. And then I'm going to buy back more when it goes to 7 cents again, or somewhere close to that. Well, it dropped ever so briefly to 14 cents. And then it ran up to like $28. And I sold it all at 21 cents so I could like make a little bit during the bear market. And I thought, the opportunity cost of that trade was huge. So now I just take positions that I like at good prices. And then I just wait till things are going crazy. And so in the meantime, it's like some projects actually do die. And it looks very different though when they're dead. It's like the team has announced they're closing their doors and ceasing all operations on developing the company behind the project. Well, that is bad news. That is dead. Vivi and Omi are very far from that point. And so don't confuse those two. It may look by the price that the token is dead, but that's just because you don't yet know what you don't yet know. So Cardano was declared as dead during the bear market in 2019 and 2020. Dead. Why are you believing in this? Cardano is never going to survive. Same kind of statements you're saying there. Theta was declared as dead. FTM, Phantom, was declared as dead, and that it'll never come back. And all they were looking at is the price was just down and then down and then down and then down. And that was true before they then went like 200x and 300x and 500x to the upside.
Sorry for laughing. There's the guy saying, is Omi coming back? I mean, never left. Like, the company behind it has still been going strong. They've never gone more than a couple days without new drops. There was, I think, a record of 7 million Omi that was burned, 2 days ago, and I think 4 million yesterday. We had a good couple days with drops. We had Chun-Li, and then we had Boba Fett movie props. The company grossed like $130,000, $140,000 in a couple of days. So just the company behind it's doing really well. But that being said, we also have some news. The last VV digital collectible that was minted on Immutable was Avengers number 49, and it was minted yesterday at 10:37 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, plus 1 hour, and that was it. So that was about maybe 5 a.m, give or take, like Eastern Standard Time. But that was the last time something was minted on Immutable. Ever since then, any new thing has been minted on the Collect chain, and they've quietly successfully migrated over 12 million collectibles on the new chain, and nobody's noticed. So I think that's a really top tier reason of why people should expect collectibles to not only make a comeback, because now they're going to be fully self-custody, and then a bit of Omi is going to burn with every transaction. Rain, what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's really big news. It all happened behind the scenes. You didn't even know that happened. That means it went really seamless and smooth, and that means the team behind it did a great job. That it happened so smoothly, you didn't even know what happened.
Yeah. So we have, I want to go over this guy that it looks like he has, I forget that dude's name. He's been on the podcast before. Do you remember his name?
Yeah, come for
Andre
the finance, for the magic. Yeah, I
He's-
love Andre Jick.
He's got Andre Jick as his profile picture, saying, you guys said the same thing 2 years ago where we had a massive bull market. I'm going to have to push back on that and say Bitcoin definitely had its ups, but nothing else did. Well, you had like some Solana, Cardano, like some of the top 10 have its ups, but altcoins did not, which Omi is a part of. So even though maybe 100 coins had its ups, there were tens of millions of tokens that did not. You had 11.5 million tokens that had just gone to rest, where they had just failed. So anyway, Firedux says not only is it totally decoupled from the broader crypto market, but it's decoupled from VV. I don't see any evidence to support that. Continue to say, I think you guys are bullish on VV, not realizing VV isn't the Omi token. Even the company hasn't done anything to help the token in years. Again, I'm going to push back on that and say that that's not just wrong, but importantly wrong. VV did not have to create the stacker marketplace where everything is transacted in Omi, giving it more utility than 99.99% of any other crypto in the world. But it did. And again, it didn't have to do that. It didn't have to lobby all of the licenses saying like, hey, we're going to have your stuff for Omi. They had to go in and make sure that, and they've been eating the costs about a lot of the sales fees. They haven't had negative pressure from Omi sales because of that. They've gone to the license and saying like, we'll eat the cost of these sales. We'll give you the US dollar amount in that. What they have done is they've taken cash out away, forcing people to transact in OMI. That's caused some downward pressure on the token. But to say that they haven't done anything to help the token is exceedingly wrong. So Rain, just your thoughts and your retorts on Fired
Well,
Dux's.
part of his assumption there are correct in that OMI is not exactly the same thing as VV. And so in that you're correct. And with tokens, you don't own ownership in the company when you own the token behind it. But that doesn't mean it isn't critical how well the company does. And when the company does well, when the greater crypto narrative comes, then the token does far better than ever should. So like tokens in some ways are concerning in that you have no guarantee that the project isn't just going to scrap the utility of the token. And what you're counting on is the greater momentum of the bigger bull run. Now, has the bull run happened? Well, the bull run has happened for Bitcoin. So the bigger bull run that's already happened, it's like it hasn't happened yet. Maybe the case could be made for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's main driver is the halving. The secondary driver is money supply growth. So if you look at money supply growth went crazy in 2017. And that fueled not only Bitcoin to have further upside than it otherwise would have, but also fueled the altcoin run tremendously. Well, that greater money supply growth hasn't happened yet. So I know tons of people are announcing that the bull run is already done and Bitcoin went all the way up to like 130,000 and now it's crashing down and it's all over. And you're just, I think that's exactly what the players that pushed Bitcoin down to 60,000 want you to be saying. I'm more bullish than ever because so many people are saying that. And you know what? It happened in 2021 as well. If you look at the price in 2021, what happened? Well, Bitcoin went to 60,000 and then it went way the hell down. And then it went up to 65,000. And when it went up to 65,000, some of the alts that hadn't really done anything during that went crazy. So one of the things I was concerned about was, does utility matter? And my thesis at the time was, yes, utility matters and makes a huge amount of difference. So Decentraland and Sandbox were both big metaverse projects, some of the biggest in the space, and they had tokens associated with them, but their use cases for the tokens were really, really minor. And I thought, but still, as the narrative hit, so many people FOMO'd into just the token associated with the project because they just wanted exposure to the projects, that the token prices went crazy and they went like 200 to 400x, all because the company was doing well. And so I thought, wow, okay. So maybe utility of the token matters way less than I thought. In those cases, it did matter way less than I had previously thought. So it's like noted. And now OMI actually has way more utility for the OMI token than Sandbox and Decentraland did for their tokens. So what we haven't had is a greater altcoin rally. And just because it hasn't come yet, most people are declaring that it's not going to come. That would be wrong. Wait till interest rates come down some more and quantitative easing goes on steroids, and then we'll see what happens. Then if it doesn't happen during then you can declare that you were right and I was wrong. But I think just because it hasn't happened yet, you're concluding that it's not going to happen. And I think you're way more wrong than you realize. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So Stacker was built by Dr. Collect, formerly known as Dr. Profit, but it was in conjunction with the Akomi team. Like it wasn't just by himself, even though he did have a lot to do with it.
I'll be right back.
Says, yeah, sure. I've carefully watched the team over the past couple of years. Anytime there are questions specifically about OMI, they defer the question, change the topic, speak incredibly vague. Not a good sign. I would like specific examples of that because nobody knows more about the company than I do. And I can't think of a time where they've done that. And I'm not saying that that's not true, because I'm sure that they've done an interview or something where maybe I haven't watched the whole thing, or maybe I don't know about it at all. Maybe it's a stealth interview that, like, I remember once they did David or I think it was Dan that did an interview with this guy that had like 9 subscribers, and like I found it somehow, I forget how, and I just didn't watch it. I was like, I'm not watching this, because again, the guy had like 9 subscribers. How much is that? So I'm sure there's things that they've done and said that I'm not privy to. But I feel like you're cherry picking data and saying things that are not true just to support your argument. But again, I don't know. So give me specific examples and specific like timestamps, and be like, oh, well, actually, this question here, they were asked specifically about OMI, and then they did like the Frank Underwood, and they spun it around and they didn't actually answer. By all means, give me that clip, and I'll let you know why they said that, or I'll stand with you and be like, yeah, they didn't say that, we should ask them about it.
There was definitely a time, right? In that time when Gary Gensler was running the SEC, and you were treated like a terrorist if you dared talk about your coin. Not an actual terrorist, but you were treated like that. You were risk of getting a Wells notice by Gary Gensler's SEC. And now the tyranny of the Gensler SEC is over. And there was a lawsuit that Vivi had. Once those two were settled, they've been talking about OMI a lot more since then.
Agreed. Short views as a show so far, gents. Bullish on buying OMI every second I get. It's all or bust for me, yo. Yeah, same. I would have the same thing. I think there's a lot of reasons for me to DCA. What anyone else should do, that's between y'all and your lord and financial advisor, whatever y'all pray to or talk to. Some people, they're like, no, I've stopped buying months ago, and I'm glad, and I've been stacking fiat. And if that's for them, again, good for them. You have to decide what's best for yourself. Fardo says, not a skeptic, but it always since 2021, and been rooting for Randy to become a millionaire again. I have, just not through OMI. Just really not seeing any recovery on this. We even had what we wanted, exchanges, token slept. Yeah, the exchange. So you take back, I won't say any specific names, but let's say people that have said like, hey, all we need to do is market. We haven't done any marketing, which was true. And the thesis was, if we market and we get the token out to people and we get this idea out to people, they'll come in. That field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you market, they will come. And in 2022, 2023, yeah, that seemed like a decent thesis. And then Recur and Hero and every other company did that. And they still, now granted, they did it in an overzealous way, where they overdid it, and they overspent, and they overestimated their run rate, and they thought that the bear market wouldn't last this long. They thought it would be a couple, 2 years max. Been 4 years. So it didn't happen. But Vivi, that hasn't marketed, they've taken their hundreds of millions of dollars that they made in 2020 to 2022, and they've held on to it. A lot of people, including me, were just like, hey, can we freaking market, please? Can we make a freaking video? But if they were to listen to everyone, they probably would have gone bankrupt by now, and they haven't. So I think that that's one thing that the people wanted that they chose not to do, and I think it takes a lot of courage to go against the grain. Then it's like exchanges. Okay, everyone wanted Binance. Now Binance, every token that's been listed on Binance the last 2 years has gone down an exceedingly high amount, up to like 99%. Now, I think that's partially because Binance does have predatory lending practices where they want an insane amount of the supply before they list, but also because the overall market, even if they didn't want that crazy amount of supply, the market's just been trending down anyways, so the token would have gone down. I don't believe that would have been the right move. The evidence is clear on that. But recently we've had Kraken, and it's, if people want access to the token, they can do it. Like, they have it. They don't need exchanges for it. I think the exchange is needed for when the average Joe six-pack wants to buy it. They want it on Coinbase, which they can get it. Another US exchange like Kraken, they can get it. But that's why. Like, it's not because of lack of marketing. It's just because of the overall market. But that's my opinion. Rain, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so a lot of people are like, yeah, marketing, that'll solve it. And it's not going to solve it. So you're just going to be, you might as well be throwing $100 bills in the fire. Um, it's about timing. So think a surfer, if he's paddling, so marketing is like paddling. And if you're just out there on your surfboard trying to paddle, well, you have to paddle at just the right time, right as the wave is coming. Otherwise, your paddling is useless. So when you're trying to catch a wave, that paddling will help you get some momentum right as the wave is coming. But at any other time, other than to get yourself out in position, you have to paddle a little bit. So paddling right now is not the right timing. You'll see the momentum coming. And for example, NBA Top Shots did this. At first, they were doing some marketing because nobody was aware of them. And this is 2020. Now, most of you were not even in crypto back in 2020. But there was this new project doing sports moments, and they had the NBA license, and it was NBA Top Shots. And it was hard to find anything about them. I saw a few videos on YouTube by people that had done a video in return for like 10 packs. And you couldn't hardly find, none of the big YouTubers were covering it, none of the big crypto YouTubers. But I found a video by it and I tried to find more, and I was like, man, and it's like, oh, these 3 people I saw videos from, they had given 10 packs to. So obviously they didn't spend very much on marketing. But I couldn't find hardly any information, and it didn't really catch on until all of a sudden it did. As money was coming in the crypto space in about February 2021, everybody started talking about NBA Top Shots. And then a lot of celebrities were talking about NBA Top Shots, and a lot of the basketball players were collecting moments from their team, from their friends, and they were showcasing it. And it went absolutely crazy. And so, like, for example, when nothing was happening, October of 2020, I bought a LeBron James rare card for 58 bucks. And by March of 2021, that LeBron James card was going for about $20,000. So now they did do a little bit of marketing, like midway through February or early March, they ran a week's worth of commercials. And they had so many people come in and be buying it that they shut down the commercials, and they just coasted because it actually flooded their servers, and their servers like got jammed up and crashed because they had too many people coming in. So they paddled at the right time, and it was critical to their success. But had they gone in August, September, October of 2020 and spent $10 million in marketing, they would have just burned $10 million in marketing with very little impact.
Agreed. Shout out to Vivi Loves. Vivi saying, by Omi today, God's omen is that Vivi and Omi rumored to have some announcements coming. Do you think they're waiting for the right market narrative, or they drop the news regardless of how the market looks? There's 1 or 2 announcements that'll be dropped regardless of how the market looks. And there's probably 1 or 2 announcements that'll be dropped when the market turns around. And then maybe something in between. Ray, if you were one of the CEOs at Vivi, or one of the founders, you had some power, board seat, how would you go about doing that? Would you wait for everything because we happen to have money coming in through these various drops? Or would you say, like, we have some money coming in, but we could always get more, and the more money the better, let's drop all the news now?
No, you would sit on some of the news to when people are paying closer attention, right? Like right now, yeah, we're paying attention, but is everybody starts to wake up. So you'd release a little bit, but some of the big announcements you would just wait, because it's like free marketing if the news is big enough. But it's only impactful when people are paying attention. Like, have you ever tried talking to somebody and they're not paying attention to you? I mean, how useful were those words? So it's like, save the words till people are paying attention.
Agreed. Ben increases, boys, when your net worth increases to being so open about your investments, ? Do you think you lose some of your freedom? How you protect it? I don't know. Rain, you answer this one first. I gotta think about it.
Yeah. I'm going to diversify half out of crypto, but yeah, it's a problem, right? If you're worth $200 million in crypto and you're talking about it, some Russian mafia person is going to find that very interesting. And then if you travel to Europe or some place that they have a lot of contacts, or New York, or who knows, like you might get kidnapped or a family member. But I'm going to diversify at least half out of crypto after this bull run into like traditional passive income type businesses. But yeah, that is a problem. And at a certain point, I will probably have security. Like if you've hung out with Charles Hoskinson for the last 3 years, you know he has private security around him. Why? Because you have to at a certain point.
The good thing about being a minority is that we don't make good hostages. You could take us hostage and no one will pay for us. So people know that we're we're probably safe. We don't need to be we don't need to be protected as much. That being said, about your investment, I mean, I told people, maybe I'll rearrange it at some point, but I told people that I would never gatekeep, because I've seen some people starting in the Pokemon days saying that, like, I'll answer most questions, but certain questions, that's a Patreon question, and I won't answer unless it's behind a paywall. And I've started over the past few years, I guess since I started, has been part of the reason I think the channel's worth a lot. I get a lot of comments, fellow followers on X, is because I tend to answer every comment. But at some point there'll be so many I just can't answer in a stream, or I can't answer in whatever, and I'll have to be like, okay, and I'll put that paywall on there. Even though I'll be open about what I'm investing in, the reasons why I would have, because like it's one thing to say like, give a man a fish. Like, yeah, I'm like, if it's sports betting, I'm going to bet on the Eagles, I'm going to bet on the Cardinals, I'm going to bet on like whatever. People can copy your bets, but then what happens if you pass away? They don't know your plays anymore. But if you teach a man to fish and you give them the reasons why you're investing into certain things, like, hey, I like X about this because of the markets, because of EBITDA, because of the founders and what they do, then it's like, okay, then your teachings can live on. And I think in that aspect, I'll always be open about what I'm investing in, but the reasons why I would probably put behind that paywall. My freedoms. So I've, not to get too much into it, but I've lived a very good life. And someone that's 60 will be like, oh, you're 35 and it's a good life, maybe not long to you, but someone that's like 15 will be like, oh, you're old. And it's like, okay, well, maybe. There's a quote from Android 16 from Dragon Ball Z that says, life is good, but living in fear is not my idea of living. And if it's my time, it's my time. I don't care. How you protect it via, I'll have my, so I've done this before a lot with Omi, where I'll have some of my crypto in certain wallets that I don't have access to. And they're in a position, they're in a bank, or they're buried underground, or they're behind in this place that you would never guess. It's like in this junkyard with this country boy with a bunch of guns surrounded by a bunch of Dobermans, whatever. Like there's a bunch of different places that it's at, and if I die, like, it's legally protected and it goes to other places where they know what to do with it. So I've planned for my death for quite a while, and if it happens, it happens. So that's my answer. You just say, hey, Ren Travis, Mexi, well, just locked away 400 million Omi. Well, sold it 3 times as a keeper. May grab enough over $1 billion, maybe $2 billion goal. So we did go up today a little bit. We went up to, we wicked up to 00015, back down to 00013.7, up about 7% on the day. Ren, do you see any reason for this? Is it just this time? Is it just the ebbs and flow of the market? Anyone it's fine.
Some people sitting on some dry powder that's like they're just going to load up at these prices, and it's a great price to load up. So, like I can share my screen. We can look at the RSI. Like RSI gives you some. All right. So.
Oh yes, let's go. Let's go.
So
Let's
it's
add
the
to the stage.
strength indicator, right? And so we see on the bottom the RSI, but look how low it is. And look in the past when it went this low. So it went this low at the bottom of the bear market in 2018. It went again one more time. This is like we had this crazy bear market during like 2018, 2019, 2020, where Bitcoin bottomed at 3,200. Then it went to 14,000 and then went all the way back here. And so it like took off from this lows, went 5x and then crashed back down. Well, geez. So they're not very, bear markets are not very predictable. Then it goes up, coinciding with what we thought a 4-year cycle, but it had this double peak top. But look, after it crashes down, the RSI goes really low again, actually at its lowest point right here. And then it went up, came back down a little bit, and then it's been going crazy to the upside and then crashed back down. This is a clue that when you're buying, when the RSI is this low, that confirms that you are buying low. And it's rare that these moments happen where it's confirmed that it's this low by the RSI. And if you literally just buy when the RSI is this low and you hold till it goes way up, like in these cases, so it's right around 28 right now. And before it even hit 26. So I think it was at 27. And so it has been lower at 26. If you literally just hold till the RSI is at like 81, 82, you buy down here and hold till then, it's an amazing strategy. Look, some people aren't ready to like be this sophisticated at just literally simply buying when it's low and holding till it's high. But one thing this isn't is this is not a sell here price. If you look, every time the RSI was this low, if you sold right near or at the bottom. So this is a load the boats signal. But so many people do this wrong. This is where they panic out and, oh, I'm done and it's just going to go down for forever and it's on its way to 30,000. Is not on its way to 30,000. So the RSI is really low and it's an amazing time to buy. And those who do are stacking the odds massively in their favor. When I did real estate investment, the only security you have with real estate investment is buying low. The lower that you buy the property for, the more likely you are to do well. The same thing with crypto. Now, crypto companies can fail. It's not like a house can fail necessarily, and like less termites like eat it all up and it collapses on itself. Houses don't generally fail, but companies do, and the companies underlying crypto sometimes do. But when you're buying this low, that is a relatively safe place. So with OMI at these lows and many of the other favorites, altcoins that you're following, now is a really good time to be looking deeply at them because the RSI is suggesting that it's an amazing buying opportunity.
Agreed. Paradoxes say that, or the 14U saying at Paradoxes they have massive IP, generate continuous revenue. As long as that continues, and it will, Vivi and Omi will thrive. It's kind of going along with what you were saying, where, yeah, as long as the company continues to survive and thrive and have their revenues coming in, they should be fine. Tammy giving us those smiley faces saying Rain Race should come. Yeah, I might be in Arizona in a couple weeks celebrating some birthdays and plus ones. Paradox says, David Yu says, we're building Rails and IP first, token later, and the chart is exactly what you get when utility is optional, demand is indirect, and there's no hype speculation loop around each update. So I'm not sure in the context of when he said that, what year he said that, but when you say that the chart is exactly what you get when utility is optional, demand is indirect, the chart for OMI is the same as the charts for many things in the bear market. So what you say may or may not be correct, that yes, when utility is optional, demand is indirect, there's no hype. But you could have the exact opposite of that for a token and a company, and the charts still do the same thing, because that's just the way the market's going right now. Again, that's just my opinion.
What was interesting about 2021 is the token ran first before the IP really ran. And so the digital collectibles themselves peaked in January of 2022, and the token peaked in March of 2021. And so the correlation just has more to do with when the altcoin season happens. And so it's like, what could they have done to really drive OMI's value in this environment? Not a lot. Like I just had an interview early this morning with Infinity Rising, and their token, the Rise token, is absolutely devastatingly punished in this environment because blockchain gaming is out of sight, out of mind, even though like they're having massive interest from traditional gamers, and they're having people come in from the gaming space, and they're doing a seed round of funding on selling some equity of their company, and things overall are going well. They have plenty of runway. They have a lot of things that I look at as far as a good investment, and yet the token price is lower and cheaper than ever. So you're assuming that had the team done so much more, the OMI token would be so much higher in this environment. Maybe it'd be a little bit higher, but it'd still be devastatingly punished, as what the digital collectibles narrative, like crypto in general, is in this massive, massive pullback. Digital collectibles narrative is not on anyone's mind. And so what, maybe if they had put tons of effort in tons of things, what would it be, double from here, which would still be punishingly low. And so I want David to continue focusing on IP. They got the rails for it, and that they have this on the collect chain now. That is actually beneficial to the OMI token. Like, what do you expect they should have done for the OMI token? You have this, I think, this idea that had they done more for the OMI token, we'd be in a different situation. But would we? I mean, would it be a meaningful difference? Like, what gives us a meaningful difference is continue to land really good IP, so that when everyone is focusing on digital collectibles, they look at Vivi and they realize most of the major brands they want are on it. And that's where he's putting his effort. So that when all the momentum comes into, oh my gosh, crypto is like so amazing. And then they're like, oh, digital collectibles, that makes sense. Let me look where the brands are. And then they have so many IPs that Vivi becomes their new home for digital collectibles. That is great for the OMI token.
Agreed, 100%. Bardock says, rewatch December 17, 2025, David View interview titled Vivi's Next Chapter. So that has happened a couple months ago, and agreed. I mean, if you want the token to be successful, you need the company to be successful. Now, like what Rain mentioned, there is that option of trying to market for the token. People come in for the token, and then the company is successful. But I mean, you could try that. You still have to pay your employees. You still have to pay the licensors. You still have to do this. So I think what they're doing is correct. You might not agree, but again, every time the company or the people that were in this, that were in the company buying the collectibles, buying the token, had said to do something, if the company were to do that, they'd probably be out of business by now. So I'm not saying you're not correct. I'm saying that there's a multivariate analysis that has to be done on why the company does this, and I think that has been done, and I think it's clear that the company should come first, even though you might be right. Maybe they focus on the token, they put $1 million into it, it happens to generate a bunch of buzz, a bunch of new users come in, and then everything flourishes, the collectibles, the token, etc. But I think that's a pretty big that's a very risky play to make without any prior knowledge of that working. So what they're doing now, I think, is a safer play. Again, in my opinion. Rain, do you think I'm playing it too safe? I think the company's playing it too safe.
Well, safe is good, as we've seen a whole bunch of businesses in the digital collectible space go out of business in the last 2 years. And since, our friend Paul Barron declared Vivi was dead, and then backed some other company that is now actually dead, because they've closed their doors, and that is actually dead. And yet Vivi still continues to have revenues coming in and other things, and they need to keep alive until crypto turns around and the altcoin rally really hits and digital collectibles comes into focus again, which it will. When is it? I suspect later this year. I think with the money printing and quantitative easing, and we'll see, Trump's pick is a little bit concerning in that some of the stuff he said back in 2008, 2009 is like, if he still thinks that way, then he's not going to be doing quantitative easing and bringing interest rates down. But I suspect Trump very much wants interest rates to come way down and quantitative easing to be in full force. And part of the concern is if Trump doesn't do that, the real inflation numbers are much, much lower than what the government's inflation numbers are. And the government's inflation, 40% of the numbers used for government's inflation numbers are guesstimates. And where the actual real inflation by trueflation is probably much, much lower, that if interest rates don't come down and if they don't go into quantitative easing, there may be not just inflation, but a devaluation, or not devaluation, but deflation coming. And so because of AI, because the amount that it costs to produce software is going to decrease tremendously because of AI. And the efficiency of people is going to be so much greater when they use AI tools that people can get way more done, way more efficiently. So there's a productivity boom coming. So more goods and services will be produced with fewer inputs, which creates this huge productivity boom. And if you don't have enough money to keep up with the quantity of goods and services that are now put out in that environment, then you actually have deflation happening. So I think Trump understands that. I think this guy he's putting in understands it, that yes, interest rates need to come down and they need to go full blown into quantitative easing. And if they do that, the amount of money that's going to come into the system, into assets in general, but specifically altcoins, will be tremendous. And we'll see a really big altcoin rally.
Agreed.
Then people will go crazy for these things called digital collectibles. And they'll be like, oh, Batman, oh, Marvel, oh, Disney. Cool. And that's what we're waiting for.
Agreed.
People are like, oh, yeah, but Rain, how do you know what's going to happen by then? It's like, I don't know by when it's going to happen. It is going to happen. I just don't know the date.
Agreed. Anything you want to go over before we talk off air?
Guys, it's amazing time. I mean, I want to pull out the RSI for you, the strength index, because the relative strength index, because that will tell you, that is one of the best confirmations that is amazing time to buy. It's a terrible time to sell. And if you literally just looked at the RSI and you bought when it went devastatingly low, like it is right now, and you sold when it goes really, really high, that is an overall amazing trading strategy. That means you are trading contrary to the rest of the market. And remember, I frequently quote the numbers that 95% of people do quite poorly. They either lose money or they don't make meaningful gains in crypto. 95% of people. It's just 5% that make the kind of gains that everyone is here to make. But why do only 5% make it? Because literally on days like this, they can't buy and they sell because they're scared. And then when prices go crazy and the RSI is like at 75 or 80, they mortgage their house and they go all in on some meme coin or or even Bitcoin or something, and they lose their shirt.
Yeah, agreed. Wild times. I'll say that again, anything can go to zero at any moment, but I have the OMI roadmap progress tracker, and oh god, that was years ago. And then there were reasons why that had ended. You'd have to watch my videos.
That is dead. We haven't seen that in 2.5 years.
Yeah,
I think they've just found different ways to give us updates, and that was an idea, a fun way to show traction. But yeah, they haven't used that forever.
Yeah, you'd have to go to my videos to like 3 years ago plus in order to get that. So that was explained, but it was explained years ago, so I don't really remember. So yeah, Foster is just he'll be on the show soon within the next 8 weeks. We might get him on for the number 100 thing. He might be on before then. I actually just had a meeting with him last night. So he's very much on the team. They're doing a lot of stuff behind, but a lot of what he's working on might not be released until summer, maybe announced until spring, but they've been working night day on a lot of this stuff, and you guys will see it at some point.
We appreciate your good questions too. They were good, solid questions with like just looking for answers. We love questions like that. They were good ones, well thought out.
Yeah. We appreciate it, and go in and you generally, it's been good advice, whether any psychologist worth their salt will tell you that, like, don't deviate from what people have done throughout history. They get married, they have kids, and they do whatever. Sometimes it's okay to be the one, like the penguin that goes to the void, that gets the call from the void. Sometimes it's not, and but fortune does favor the bold. And for every 50 people that go out and they try something and they fail, there is going to be that one person that goes out, that tries something and they succeed. But again, are you going to be part of that 2%? I don't know. Even we're still early stage, the social is still very straightforward, like a mature company. We're still growing. I'd rather see more community engagement, like when Ben was around. Agreed. I would like that too.
We all loved when Ben was around. Ben understood crypto at a depth that was amazing, and we loved interacting with someone that had such a high position in Vivi that understood the crypto side of things so well. We all miss Ben. We love Ben.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get, I don't know if he'd even want to come on, but we'll see. Anyway, please comment, like, and subscribe. Comments good for the YouTube algorithm. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. We all love you.